And now Pastor Norman will bring us our sermon.
Thank you for playing whatever that thing was, a flute. Okay. Take your Bibles and let's go to the Psalms 84. I'm going to be on Psalms 84, I believe, for the next 3 weeks, and it's something that I think that is very vital to today, our Christian walk, and our well-being. Psalms 84. I'll read the first 3 verses. How lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord host. My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young, even your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. The question is, it doesn't definitely say, but it seems that all scholars seem to agree on this aspect. This psalm was written after Absalom's rebellion. Now, David was the king of Israel. David, as is described in the New Testament, was a man after whose heart? God's own heart. But David fell along the way a few times. This was written after his experience with Bathsheba. He thought that he did okay, but in reality, he did not do okay. And when Nathan the prophet had talked to him, he had repented. But even after he repented, what happens to the son? He dies. And Ellen White brings out in the book Patriarchs and Prophets that this sin was ever before him. And what he had did, even though he was truly repentant because of it. And because David did this sin, he didn't feel that he would needed to discipline his children maybe as he should. And Absalom has a sister who is raped by one of David's other sons, and then Absalom kills the son, and Absalom is banished. And then Absalom gradually works his way back into David's good graces because of Joab. And David, for some reason, has this great affection for Absalom. I thought to myself, how many wives does David have? It doesn't really say, but he did have many. We know that he had at least 10 concubines. And he's king of Israel. How much babysitting do you think David did? I would say 0. And let's say after David was at work at the king, whatever he did as the king at the court, when he would come home, what did he have when he came home? A series of wives there? I mean, who did he go to? He has a series of kids there. And I think to myself, he could not have any deep relationship, it seems like, with anybody there because there's so many wives, there's so many kids, and he doesn't do anything. He's just the king and gives orders. But somehow he comes very close to Absalom. Absalom decides to rebel, and he rebels, and David flees and leaves Jerusalem and goes across the Jordan River. And then there's the battle that occurs. And in this battle, there are 3 different generals, and David tells each of the generals there, be nice to my son who? Absalom. And Joab, one of the commanders, gets an opportunity, and he sees Joab hooked in a tree. His hair, I guess, was long and beautiful somehow, and it got stuck in a tree, and Joab goes up, and what does he do to Absalom? He kills him. And the news comes back, and it's news of victory because Absalom has been killed. And David, what does he do? He begins to weep and cry about his son Absalom. And Joab goes in there and tells David where the ball bounces that hey, who do you love more, the guy that rebelled or do you love us? And then David comes and realizes what he has done. And then the rebellion has been thrown down. But David doesn't immediately go back to Jerusalem, and David is there waiting for the elders to call him back to become king again. Now, is this a crisis situation? How bad a crisis situation is this? You have your concubines have been slept by Absalom. You've been thrown out. Your son is dead. Another son is dead. You have Bathsheba. And you have all this tremendous mess. And in the book, the word depression is used concerning David. And he has all this. And the question I would ask you then is, what is David's reaction to the mess that he is in? What is your reaction when you are in a familiar situation that David is in? In the Chandler church this morning, when they asked for prayer, there were a couple that people raised their hands asking prayer for friends that had, a couple of them that had brain tumors. Now, if the doctor says you have a brain tumor, is that good or bad? That's pretty bad, and it's not very good. And what is your reaction during all that? Now, let's go back to verse 1 and see. This is David here. He has all this crisis situation. He has circumstances that are horrendous. And it says here in verse 1, "How lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord of hosts." Now, is this positive or negative? Positive. "My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord." Where does David want to be? He wants to be back in Jerusalem, where the Ark of the Covenant is, where the tabernacle is. That's where David wants to be. He says, what does he want to do? He longs to be there in the court there. Now, the last couple of weeks, we had bad weather here. And here at Summit Ridge, we cancel because of slick sidewalks, and people are a little bit older, and they slip, and we do not have church. How many of you were in tremendous distress, longing to be in church, or were you happy that we didn't have church? Don't answer that. In Oklahoma, we have camp meeting every summer for 2 weeks, and during that time, we don't have church here. So therefore, of the most churches, let's go into Oklahoma City. If you had a church there that has 100 members, probably 20 will go to camp meeting. The other 80 do what? Stay at home. And what do? Are they in great sorrow that they're not there? No. How's the last time you fainted and were totally stressed out because you were not at church on the Sabbath day? Today, you talk to other pastors, and it seems like to me, not so much in this church, but in other churches, if you have a cloud the size of a man's hand that might rain in 6 days, that's a good reason to do what? Skip church. And here, David is a total different response because he wants to be there where the tabernacle is, because at the tabernacle, you have the most holy place, and who dwells in the most holy place? God. Therefore, that's where he wants to be. So therefore, even though all the situation is a disaster, he still realizes that God is there, and God is what kind of God? A living God. Now, when you pray, do we really think to ourselves, do we really ask ourselves, do we really feel that we are praying to a living God? This is what I do now, is I try to picture to myself, in meditation to begin with, that I am going in to a room, and in that room, in front of me is a throne, and on that throne is who? God. If I was doing that physically, going into a room where God was there, what level of concentration would I have? Tremendous, because I am what? I am talking to God. Therefore, my mind should not be doing what? Wandering from here to there. And I continually remind myself that I am speaking to who? The living God. And even though I do that, I still fail majority of the time. But that is my goal, to realize is like Moses there at the burning bush. He is speaking to who? The living God. God is there. And I think today we forget that. If we realize that God was watching us, around us, always with us, our behavior would be totally what? Different, because God is a living God. What is true religion? I asked somebody some questions recently, and I said, what is, if you have 60 seconds, tell me what Christianity is. Can you define Christianity in 60 seconds? And people gave me different answers. One said to me, Christianity is following Christ. What does that mean? Now, here in Oklahoma, in University of Oklahoma, we have a football team called the Oklahoma Sooners. Can you be a follower of the Oklahoma Sooners? Yes or no? Yes. Now, are there different kind of followers for the Oklahoma City football team? Yes or no? Yes. There are those that went to the University of Oklahoma, and when they were students, they went to the game, rain or shine. They were very intelligent individuals. They graduated, and they have made vast sums of money. In football, college football now, they pay the players. So therefore, Oklahoma needs money to have players, so they write out a check, maybe for $1 million, maybe $5 million, maybe $10 million. They give that to the University of Oklahoma as a tax deduction because they are followers of what? The Sooners there. And after they give all that money, do the Sooners win or lose? Most of the time they do what? They lose in the big games. But I'm saying there are different kinds of followers. Now, I'm a follower of the team a little bit. Never been to a game, never have given them $1. But because I'm from Oklahoma, I hope they win. But that's it. I don't care if they lose or win. And so there are different kind of followers. I'm afraid we as Christians are like my following Oklahoma. We are not dedicated in living and breathing and realizing what true religion is, and that is a knowledge of who? Of God. Because the end of verse 3, it says, my King and what? My God. What kind of God is this? My God. Is that a personal term? Yes. Now go with me to Matthew chapter 6. Here, Christ is doing the Beatitudes, and he's motoring into the Lord's Prayer. And it's very important to see how he starts the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6. How does he start it? It says, our what? Our Father. Now, how many people can you say to and use the term Father? It says right here in verse 9, Matthew 6, verse 9, our Father who is in what? Heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is what? In heaven. Now, in a Christian setting, I can call some of you Sister Smith or Brother Smith. It's a very common terminology. But do I ever call anybody Father Smith? No. Why? The only person I can call Father is my dad, or if I have been adopted by somebody. Some people have done that. How many fathers do you actually have? And that is how many? One. It is a personal term that is used. So therefore, David goes back here in Psalms 84 and says what? My God, my Father, our Father. And David has more than just a knowledge of God. David actually knows God. There is a musician called Taylor Swift, who is probably the most famous singer there is today. And there are people that follow her, and they're called Swifties. I've never heard a total song by Taylor Swift in my life, but there's a group that follow her, that follow every move that she makes. And they know everything about her, but do they know her? No. They have no knowledge of how she really is. Does she want to know them? No, not at all, because it's not even physically possible. There's too many, but she only has a very small group of people. God, because of who God is, does he have the ability to know everybody? Yes, he has to know everybody on an intimate way if we choose to go that direction. The problem is that we have a tendency not to go that direction. We are too concerned about ourselves. Now, in Christianity, I think the greatest thing that can happen that goes wrong with us is that we start looking to ourselves and what we have done. In Genesis 1:1, who do we start with? In the beginning, what is the word? God created the heavens and the earth. In John chapter 1, in the beginning was what? The Word. And if you go through the scriptures in the Old and the New Testament, you always start with who? God. In our Christianity today, we have a tendency to start with what? Ourselves a lot. And sometimes it seems to me, as we look at last day events, we seem to be looking at who? Ourselves, on how we may behave or may not behave, and we're worried about what may be happening or may not be happening, but it all still focuses around who? Ourselves. And but in reality, we need to be focusing on who? God is in control of everything. We do not have to worry about ourselves and what is in the future. And we focus in trying to say, I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to be better, I'm trying to eliminate this, and I'm trying to do all this stuff. What we need to focus is on who? We need to focus in on God. And how you focus on God is by what? Knowing him. If we go to the 23rd Psalms, how does it start out? The Lord is what? Whose shepherd? I shall not what? Well, that's a pretty big statement. If you ask somebody, a child under 15, at Christmas time, do they have a list of wants? All of us seem to have a list of wants. As you get older, the physical wants seem to not be, the materialistic wants aren't as great. But I think the greatest want today is to have mental what? Peace on what is going around in life today. Because if you look at life today and you look at our country today, are things going good or are they going bad? Bad. I don't think you can run into many people that say they are very positive in the direction of the country of the United States of America. We are not very, positive about that. And you talk to them, people are worried about our education system, that it's not good, the influence of the kids. And I was talking to someone very recently that she was telling me, one of the employees over here, that, when she was in high school, that's when they did the partying. Now, she says, it's starting in middle school. And very concerned about sending her daughter to middle school. or people look at the economy, and it seems to me that the wealthy seem to get wealthier, and the middle class and the poor seem to get what? Poorer all the time. And it seems that everybody is concerned about themselves, and people want morality without God. If we quit doing certain sins and certain things, then our country is going to be a lot greater place. And it shows from history that that's not going to occur, and the world doesn't look too positive at all. But David was there 3,500 years ago or 3,100 years ago. Things didn't look too positive either. But yet, what is David's attitude? Is it a positive one? Yes. It is a good attitude because he is walking with God, even though he is suffering the consequences of the decisions that he made. And he's going to suffer again when he numbers Israel because he keeps making mistakes, but yet he still seeks repentance, and God forgives him for the great sins that he does because he realizes who God is, because he does what? He knows God. We at Adventist seem to know the 28 fundamental beliefs, but we don't seem to know who? God. Because if you knew God, you would look at life in a more positive way and look forward what he has done and what he will do, because has God not led you so far in your life so far already? Yes, and he will continue to lead you. And do you want to be like David to say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not what? Want, because you go through the valley of the shadow of death. I was listening to a sports commentator this week who makes, I don't know, $10 million or more a year. And he says, every week you have at least 3 bad days. I think to myself, wow. I think that each of us should not look to the circumstances that are around us and look to God, and our hearts need to pant and to faint, to desire to be with God. And if we can do that, then our Christianity will be something. We need to read the Psalms 84 over and over and over again, because he uses the term also 3 times. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. Blessed is the man whose strength is where? In you. And the last verse, O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man who trusts in you. Where's our blessings found then? They're found in God. And that's what we need to do. And look for God, search for God. And God says, if I numbered the hairs of your head, I know when the sparrow falls, if you search for me, you will do what? You will find me. Search for God, and you will find him.